Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, hi, I'm Sherice. Welcome to the good life. As you've read by the title, today's video is going to be a January and February reading wrap up. I read 4 books in January and 4 books in February, and we're going to go through these really quickly because we don't want to be here the entire day. So in January, I did a TBR judge, which is my reads for the month, and I had about 7 books, but out of the 7, I only read about 3 of those, and then I read an additional one. So I have 4 books here, and we're going to talk about these. The first book I read was Powerless by Lauren Roberts, and this is a fantasy book. This is my first ever fantasy book, and it was an amazing introduction. I absolutely love this. I gave it like a 4.75, like a 5-star rating. I'm still deciding if I want to just give it 5 stars, but I absolutely enjoyed my time reading this book. The flirting between Pei and Kai, unmatched. Literally unmatched. Like all my romance books can't compare, honestly. I love the banter between the 2 main characters, and I was a little bit nervous about entering the fantasy genre because I didn't know if I would enjoy the fight scenes. Boy, was I wrong. I loved every single one of them, and I kept wanting more. So I'm so excited for the second book that's gonna come out, which it will be in July. So if you haven't read a fantasy book before and you're looking to get into the genre, I do think this is a great introduction. It was a little bit slow at the beginning, but I feel like most books, you can't really judge them until you're like 100 pages in. At least I don't judge books until I'm like 100 pages in, but definitely would recommend. Absolutely enjoyed this. The second book I read was The Hardest Fall by Ella Mays, and this is a sports college romance. It is the shy girl, popular boy trope. It's definitely a rom-com because of the way they met. They literally met in like a bathroom and he was taking a piss. It wasn't the cheesiest book I've ever read at all, but it's definitely like a romantic comedy, so take that into consideration. I love the characters as like individuals, and I really love them together. I feel like loving characters in a book really makes or breaks the book. Like if you don't like the characters, then why are we even reading the book, if you know what I mean? It wasn't anything major. It's not a book that I'm going to be thinking about, you know, for months and months. And the characters, I won't say they were forgettable, but definitely not the most memorable that I've read. And I gave this, did I set a rating? A 3.75 stars. I really love the epilogue in this book. I'm someone who looks forward to epilogues in books. I know a lot of people don't really like them, but I personally love an epilogue in a book. So I really enjoyed that. And I think Dylan, how do you pronounce his name? Dylan. I think he was a really good book boyfriend. Zoe, the main character, was a tad bit weird at times, but yeah. Okay, so the next book we have is Hopeless by Elsie Silver, and this is the 5th book in the Chestnut Spring series. I have all the other books right here, and I was so excited to get to Bo's book. Now I gave this a 3.75. I really wanted to give it a 4-star, but it just didn't do it for me. I loved the beginning of this book. Bo and Bailey were absolutely hilarious. I loved Bailey so much. The book really started off strong, but just somewhere in the middle, it just kind of fell flat for me. And like the 3rd act breakup, I was like, that's it? Like that's the 3rd act that's the 3rd act breakup? I don't know. I definitely think Bailey could have been a tad bit older. Like I have read age gap romances before. The second book in the series is an age gap romance, but there's just something about this age gap that I wasn't obsessed with. I think Bailey could have been a tad bit older and the plot could have remained the same. So the reason she's as young as she is because she doesn't have a lot of dating experience, but I think she could have been at least like 25, 26 with no dating experience, you know what I mean? But that's just my opinion. Also, I've heard a lot of people say that they didn't really understand the reasoning for them to be like fake fiancés. I think it was totally justifiable. Like I understood their reasoning completely, but that's just me. I've also heard a lot of people say that Bo's story wasn't as traumatic or as deep as they would have loved it to be because Bo was in the military and he kind of got not kidnapped, but like the transportation left him behind or something like that. And I think that they went in depth. Like I totally thought they had enough backstory. Like we definitely understood his trauma and the reason behind why he was acting the way he was acting in the previous books. But it was a good ending to the entire series. I enjoyed my time with this book. Didn't love the epilogue though. I'm sorry, but I'm an epilogue girly and I think the epilogue could have been a tad bit more, but it was a good book. And finally, for the month, I read Marriage for One by Ella Mays. I was so excited to read this book. Now, first off, let me say that this book is 500 pages. I don't mind a 500-page book, but it definitely could have been shorter. It could have been like 400 pages, 450 pages. Let's just start there. So, what I did like, I love the way Jack spoke about Rose and the way he spoke to her. Like, he definitely showed he cared about her. I definitely love that. Rose wasn't my favorite female character I've ever read. I feel like she was just okay. The book definitely had a lot of plot in it for like the 500 pages. It definitely had a couple things happening, so it wasn't boring, but it could have been shorter. Okay, so I just went off on a tangent, but I'm gonna edit out all that I literally just said. I did not like third act breakup in this book. It made no sense to me. Jack was in the wrong. He should have been the one apologizing. And Rose was the one apologizing. I absolutely hated the third act breakup. I hated the resolution, and I did not love the ending of the book. That is why I gave it a 3.5. I gave it a 3.5, which is a good rating because I did enjoy the beginning and the middle of the book, but there's just something about the ending that I definitely did not like. And like I said, it was just a tad bit too long. Could have been shorter than 500 pages in my opinion. But yeah, Marriage for One by Ella Mays. Okay, I think I definitely need to find somewhere else to record these videos. I always want to do them in front of my shelf, but like, sitting on my knees, it's really not ideal. Anyhow, I read 4 books in February. We're gonna move on to my February reading wrap-up. I did the TBR Jar Chooses My Reads again, and I chose 6 prompts, 6 books, and I only read 3 of those books. And then I read an additional one. Hey, don't come for me. So, let's start off with the first book, which was Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. Now, this was such an anticipated read for me because everyone loved this book. Most people read it last year, but you know, I got it for Christmas and I was saving it for this year. I started this in January and I finished it in February, but this is also 500 pages. First of all, it could have been shorter. I don't have anything against 500-page books, but this definitely could have been shorter than 500 pages. So, let's start with the negatives. I did not like the writing style in this book at all. I was really trying to find a better way to say that, but I did not enjoy the writing style. It felt YA, like young adult, but it's definitely not a young adult book because it has spice in it. It just, I don't know, the writing style is not the best that I have ever read, honestly. It was just something about it that just didn't do it for me. And I was about 300 about 350 pages into this book. I kid you not. And I was bored. I was like, this is it? This is the book that everyone on TikTok loves? But then, after the 350 page mark, the last 150 pages, I saw why everybody loved this book. It made sense. And the fact that I had to get to 350 pages just to fall in love with this book. And then after we got to the last half of this book, I still felt like it just dragged on and on and on. Like, this book did not need to be 500 pages. At all. But I still ended up giving it a 4 stars because the ending definitely saved this book. Like, it was going to be like a 3 or 3.5. But it's okay, I guess. It's okay. Next, I read Filthy Rich Vampire by Geneva Lee, and I just saw this at the works, and I was like, oh, let's pick it up, because he's a vampire, she's a human, I'm a Twilight fan, so I was like, yay. Let's take a break from the rom-coms and the contemporary romance and try something new. Nobody told me this is the first book in a series, and because nobody told me, I'm gonna tell you. This is the first book in a 4-book series. There's no indication anywhere. I searched this book front and back to see if I missed like anything. I did not miss it. It's just not indicated that this is not a standalone. I thought it was a standalone. So I unintentionally started another series, but it's okay. It's okay. I give this book a 3.25. I definitely love the vampire world that the author created. I felt like it was very interesting. I don't know what I expected. Maybe something closer to Twilight, but it was different and I really enjoyed that. I loved the plot line. They attended a lot of vampire events and it was interesting seeing what the events were like. Oh, I didn't even tell you. This is like a fake dating trope, and I love a fake dating trope. But I did not love the romance in this book. It was too insta-lovey, like right off the bat. And the romance just, it wasn't romancing, which makes sense because it's the first book in a series. So we have 3 other books to get a lot of romance. But because I didn't know it was the first book, eventually I figured it out. The more I read, the more I was like, yep, the romance is not doing it, so it definitely has to be the first book in the series. But it was interesting, and it was a good read. I would definitely continue the series. I'm not in a rush to finish the series, but it was an okay book. Oh, next I have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This is a literary fiction, and this was extremely popular last year as well. And this is one of the 24 books I want to read in 2024. I was so excited for this. I gave it a 4.25. I enjoyed my time reading this, and I read it really quickly, I think. So this is about 2 friends, Sam and Sadie. They met as 11 and 12-year-olds, and we follow them from 11 and 12 all the way until they're like late 30s, like they're like 37 or something when the book ends. Nobody told me this book would be a sad book. Let's just start there. I was literally crying. I don't know if it was just me, because nobody else said that they cried, but I was crying. I really enjoyed the plot of this book. So Sadie and Sam, they met as children, and then they fell apart, and they met again as 20-something-year-olds. They're in like college. They start making games together, and then, you know, they continue making games together. They start their own business, etc., etc. I really enjoyed the game making component in this book. I felt like it was a good book. You know, it's my first literary fiction, and it was really good. I did think Sam and Sadie were red flags though. Like, sometimes they were so problematic for no reason at all. It's just like, even when they were children, I was like, the things they would do, I'd be like, interesting. But I really grew to love them. However, I did not like the ending of this book. As a romance girly, I love a happy ending. I'm not saying the ending in this book is not good. Like, it's totally reasonable for what the book was. I could definitely recommend a different ending. One that is happier than what I got. But that's just me, because I love a happy ending. But definitely would recommend. And last but not least, we have, actually last and least, we have Charlie Loving Clichés by Ella Mays. So this book came out last year, and a lot of people were buying it and reading it, and they weren't enjoying it. But because the cover is so stunning, I was holding out hope that I would like it, because I really wanted the book just for the cover. I did not enjoy this book. First of all, I love a good cheesy romance book. Like, I don't mind a cheesy book. I know some people don't like it. They're like, oh, cringe. But no, literally, this book, why was I suffering from secondhand embarrassment the first chapter in? My favorite part of this book, I kid you not, was the part where Charlie decided to make like a list of things she wants to do to get her life in order. That was my favorite part of this book, and that was like 50 pages in, and this book is like 400 and something pages. So Charlie and William, I need to sit differently, honestly, my feet are like killing me, sorry. Charlie and William met about 6 years ago at a diner, and then they lost contact, and then he shows up one day at her company, at her dad's company where she works. And then they were like, okay, I don't have a crush on you anymore. We shouldn't date because we're colleagues, etc., etc. And then as the book progressed, I don't even know how they jumped into a relationship, honestly. Because it went from them saying they're not going to be in a relationship and they no longer like each other, to him being jealous and then them being in a relationship. I give this a 3-star. And honestly, it's lucky it has a 3-star, because I've given other books on my shelf a 3-star, but those ratings are different from this one. If you're a reader, you know that 3-star ratings are different. This one, I did not really enjoy my time with this book at all. I don't know. They weren't bad characters, but I just simply was not interested in them. That's just me. So I gave this a 3-star, which is a tad bit disappointing, honestly. Not my favorite book that I've read by Ella Mays. Thus far, her books have not blown me out of the water, but the first 2 were okay. yeah, these are the 8 books that I read in February, that I read in January and February. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope I didn't talk your heads off too much. I probably did. I'm gonna have to edit this video down to like 10 minutes or something like that. But I would say that I had 2 good reading months to start the year off. I had some really good reads, and then I had some okay-ish reads, and that's okay. So yeah, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and don't forget to like the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye. Now I have to put all these books back on the shelf, which I don't feel like doing right now, so we'll do it after.